I don't remember exactly what he said, but my dad was talking to a relative. Later on, he asked me if I knew what he said. I said yes. Though my Cantonese is pretty basic, what he said seemed simple enough to understand. My dad smiled and said, "That wasn't Cantonese. That was my dialect, Hakka, and you understood it." I was stunned. I remembered then that my dad was from an ethnic minority in China and had to learn Cantonese, Mandarin, Vietnamese, and English to survive as a refugee. I realized that both of my parents were minorities in their homelands, and here in the US, they were minorities within minorities. My mom was part of the Teochew community, who was made fun of for being the Chinese girl when her family lived in Vietnam. And now that she and my dad made a family in the US, I was met with the generalizations about Asians. There was no room for mainstream white society to know what Hakka or Teochew meant. If someone asked me about my ethnicity, at most they could handle Vietnamese or Chinese. Both of my parents had ancestry in rural areas of China, which is a poverty indicator due to neglect from governments that do not provide public services such as education. When my ancestors lived in China, they were the rural or farmer people. When they lived in Vietnam, they became the foreign Chinese kids. When my parents moved to the US, they became Asian. So, their success as ethnic minorities, beyond the odds of poverty and marginalization, became another model minority success story that erased their roots. As I awoke to the injustices against people of color, immigrants, refugees, and other marginalized communities in the United States, I began to see the assimilationist force of white imperialism and white supremacy. I began to understand that America oppressed the other, whoever the other happened to be at the time. The question that plagued me throughout my education was, why does the model minority stereotype bother me if it's quote unquote positive? Shouldn't we and other minorities just take what we can from our stereotypes and defy what we don't like about them? This defied my consciousness throughout my schooling, where I doubted myself when I felt something was ignorant, offensive, or disrespectful. My internalized emotions came out in ways I didn't want them to because I was at the scrutiny of my classmates who were mainly white and comfortable with the status quo. To challenge my treatment and other students of color would make me a target for gossip, and I was so worried about what people thought of me that I would predict in my mind what things they would say about me. "She's unreasonable, she's imagining things, it's just a joke, stop complaining, you're not dealing with real racism. If you're so angry, why don't you do something about it?" And in my high school and college years, these things have become things that are said to my face, though I now have learned to expect them. What struck me about reading Wiping the War Paint Off the Lens, or about the ground on which August Wilson stands, is that their racial identity unified their ethnicities, that they would unite and revel in identifying as Chicano and black. Singer talks about how Pueblo urban activists would join the powwows of Plains nations to revitalize native cultures. And I thought about how I, a Teochew person, joins Japanese and Vietnamese festivals because my Teochew celebrations are rare. While being Asian can unite us, I started to realize that it came with the burden of the model minority myth. Its ideals are impossible to meet, it exploits and shames other minorities, it trivializes our problems and disempowers us, and most importantly, it flattens our identity and erases our ethnicity and heritage. So that's what I started to realize. That's why being Asian felt so comfortable and uncomfortable at the same time. How do we unite and also retain our individuality?
Đường hẻm nè, bồi khưng nè, năng ngày trụ nè, quỳ nè, yểm nè, à, cái chiều à, à, cái ông gì kìa hoa là bởi quả coi rồi đó, quả chê nè, đấy là chiều à, quả chê chọn mẹ đó, đâu có gì